Hi and welcome to the episode number 8 now of the JA Malta Podcast dealing with work readiness. This is the last episode of our work readiness season, and today we have two more guests. We have Martina Livori and Marie Claire Testa, and this episode will be discussing the benefit of volunteering and the NGO sector. So typically when we're looking for jobs and employment, we look at private jobs in the corporate world or public jobs with the government. But also there's a third sector, which is the NGO sector, and we will be discussing this from either working within NGOs and volunteering organizations, as well as the benefits of volunteering as well. So I'll start off as usual with a brief introduction. Marie Claire, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Marie Claire. I am the coordinator of Prisms, which is a local youth NGO. Personally, I started working with Prisms full-time before volunteering for a number of years before. And this also changed my career because I started in a specific sector and now I'm studying therapy. So it was also a career change.
Excellent. Thank you. Martina?
So my name is Martina. I am currently a funding officer with the Malta Council for the Voluntary Sector. Personally, I also do volunteering, which is one of the things that prompted me kind of to want to work within the organization as well. So basically my experience in volunteering has helped me to better understand what it means to work on a voluntary basis, obviously. And basically what we do is we offer funding for different projects, and it has been a very interesting journey the past 3 years of watching different projects kind of develop and different volunteers working on these several projects, and also visiting them hands-on has been a very exciting experience as well.
Excellent, thanks. In our episodes, we start off with a quick fire round just to break the ice. So I'll start with some quick questions. So in terms of extracurricular activities, let's say, would you prefer sports or more artistic, more on the arts?
Tough. Sports.
I think I'm a more artistic person.
You would focus more on local impact or global change?
Local impact.
Mm-hmm. I do more local impact at the moment, but I want to do a bit of global change as well.
Do you follow TikToks or podcasts?
Podcasts
as well.
In-person events or online webinars?
Definitely in person.
Same here, definitely in-person events.
And volunteering, again, local in the community or volunteering abroad?
My experience so far has always been local.
Same here. I've been doing local volunteering, but I do want to do something abroad, so I look forward to another challenging experience ahead.
Excellent. Thanks for that. You already sort of tackled it a bit in your introductions, but to try and go into more detail, how did you personally get involved in the NGO sector, in the volunteering sector, Martina? How did it start?
So basically, I do voluntary work with a number of different... So I do work in the parish, I do work with the Salesians, which is mostly what got me interested into the voluntary work. So basically, I'm a youth leader with the Salesian Oratory in Senglia, the Salesian Youth Center, and we have a number of different activities that we do throughout the week. We have the youth center, obviously. We have football activities, which our kids definitely love, and they look forward to each week. And since I've been going there since I was 12 years old, I think, the experience of seeing the leaders at the time and what they did kind of to me was inspiring. So I would look forward to go there, and as a kid, for me it was a good experience. And then as I started growing up, I was given the opportunity to apply for projects, do something of my own, go on experiences abroad as well. And that kind of kept me there. That kind of kept me wanting to do more volunteer work, wanting to give back something to the people that came after me, kind of the new youths, the young kids. And it's been a very interesting journey so far. I've been volunteering now for, I think, almost 8 years, and I don't regret any second of it, I think.
Excellent. And Marie Claire, how did you do the shift into the NGO?
Since I remember, I think I was involved in volunteering, so it has always been very part of me, and I think it started from my mum. I was very, very shy, not that now I'm the most extrovert of persons, but I was even more shy when I was younger. So she really encouraged me to be part of other organizations. So I remember my childhood at the Scouts, at the youth center of the parish church as well. So that's how it all started. I was lucky enough to meet other people that shared my idea. So my friends, we all did volunteering with different groups in Malta. We did voluntary experiences abroad as well, with the Missionaries of Charity in particular. And so it was very easy to transition into the NGO sector for me. I met a like-minded person, Clive, the other co-founder of Prisms, and we started thinking how we could reach other people, like the passion that we had, how we can transform it into something which is more sustainable in that case, not just voluntary. And it all started back in 2007, and in 2008 we registered our voluntary organization at that time. And that's how Prisms came to be.
Thank you, Marie Claire. So I think something common is that you've started seeing the results, the impact of the sector when you were young, and then it inspired you to do it. Even I personally, I'm back at JA Malta from a student because I recognize the impact it did on me. So here I am again, so I can clearly relate to that. When it comes to working within the sector, do you feel that if youths act and move towards the sector to work in the sector, do you feel that they gain different skills from other work? In a sense, I feel it tends to give you more initiative, more space to grow, to try things. Is that something you share as a common understanding?
Okay. Yes, definitely yes. In the sense that when you work in an NGO, at least our NGO, it's a small NGO. So definitely there's no hierarchy, there's no bureaucracy. And we encourage people to come up with their own ideas, with their own projects. And this gives you so many soft skills, so many skills that you can use in other projects that you can develop on, that I think in other works it might not give you the possibility to do so. Because if you're doing for a project, you're going to apply, so you're going to plan, you're going to manage it, you're going to develop skills specifically for that project, you're going to meet other people, time management, so many different skills. Mm-hmm. And it encourages a lot the entrepreneurial aspect as well of the person. So go and chase your dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And do you see this development when you're working with other NGOs that you see applying for projects? Do you see this gradual improvement in people getting involved and applying maybe for the second project, Martina?
Mm-hmm. So yes, obviously from my experience with MCVS, so mainly when it comes to funding, there's the CIS project and the VOPS projects, both of which we've seen many different projects happening. So obviously when it comes to the voluntary sector, there are organizations from different sectors, but if we're to look specifically at youth organizations, which from my experience I have been working with, you do see, yes, this improvement, these youths that came up with a good idea that for their organization and they want to work for it. And I think it gives them a lot of skills of, first of all, a sense of ownership, because this is something that they came up with and that they want to do. Obviously teamwork, because they're working together on this project that they want to get a good result out of, and also a sense of leadership. So who's going to take care of what, who will be organizing what in this project, how will the project start, making sure that it's a smooth process and eventually closing the project correctly. And then also when you get to the closing of the project, so when it comes to reporting, you get to meet these youths and they're like, okay, but tell me what I did right, tell me what I did wrong, so that for the next project I will improve. Mm-hmm. And then when it comes to the next year of funding, you see them applying again and the project is a lot more improved, and you're like, okay, so they learned from this experience and they're taking it obviously to the next experience.
And do you see this also being recognized from employers? So maybe you've had discussions with other employers, or you've seen from people that sort of you work with. Do you see that this work or anything listed on a CV that someone did work with volunteer organizations, student organizations, does that typically add value to their CV, and do employers recognize this?
In my opinion, yes. Because if you have, let's take for example, you have two people that are both very well qualified, they have the same qualifications, then they will go for the other skills, for the soft skills, as Martina was saying. So how well can you do in a team? How well can you manage your time? How innovative are you? So it's not just the academic qualifications. So I think that gives you a lot of added value, if we can say it, if you have experience in an organization volunteering.
Something that also sort of was we discussed in the previous episodes and interviews, for example, when employers ask you, give me an example, or do you have any leadership skills? You can actually say not just yes, I have, but you can say yes because I did this X and Y in my organization. So it gives you a chance to actually explain to employers that and showcase what you really gained as skills. In terms of employers, Martina, do you see any interaction with employers coming to MCVS as such for confirming any organizations or trying to work with organizations, or it's not really the area where MCVS operates?
So me personally, obviously, I'm more of a funding officer, but I haven't really gotten such experience. But for example, if we can take particular cases, we've also had interns working with us, and eventually these interns, obviously, they go to a place of work. So it might be the case that yes, they've done an internship with us, so yes, they will contact MCVS and see, listen, what did they do? How was the experience for them? But also from a personal experience, I can say that yes, qualifications are obviously important. Have a degree, have a diploma, have whatever, qualifications are always important. But I do believe that employers, when it comes to these skills, even to continue on what Marie Claire was saying, they do look for them. So has this person done a volunteer experience? Yes. So they're more likely to have certain people skills and be able to communicate a bit more. So I do believe that, yes, when it comes to employers, they do their research as well, and they do look out for such experiences.
Excellent. So just you mentioned that actually in your interventions that you've seen people grow and improve. Just to lighten up a bit the mood, in terms of any success stories that you saw, a small project starting small and growing, or a particular individual that you've seen growing and flourishing thanks to volunteering and NGOs. Any stories you can share from your life?
Yes, I do have. It's very much linked to volunteering. A few months ago, we finished a big project, a long-term project that we had, and it was mentoring with students in a particular school. And the best thing about it is hearing their experience of the project, how it has impacted them. And they're giving back to the community, because almost all of the young people that were part of this project are now volunteering with us and being leaders in other groups. So for me, that is a very perfect example of how important it is to instill these skills and values in the young people as well.
So I'm trying to think of a particular one, because obviously there are a lot of experiences, but something that in particular that comes to mind, I think, is so within the organization that I volunteer with the Salesians, we obviously have different youths, and something in particular that comes to mind is that we used to have what we called the early morning run group. So there was a group of young people who, out of their own will, they decided, listen, let's start a group, and we started going to run every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. And it was their initiative. So to see these young people who are usually just attending the youth center, and then out of their own idea, they decided to start doing this thing. It was very inspiring for me, because I see them grow, and my work obviously is not for nothing. So I know that what I'm doing with them is obviously resulting in a positive thing. And also to see them taking initiative, I think is something very interesting as well. It's a learning curve as well.
Yeah, I think it's part of that satisfaction that we were mentioning before. And even, as you said, people who experience it then tend to stay on, tend to join in. So it is that feel-good factor that you're doing something for the good of society, and you gain back even automatically thanks to that. So back to now more working in the NGO sector, in the tertiary sector. Maybe Marie Claire, I start with you. If people want to join this sector or they're looking for opportunities there, do you see that the sector offers enough space for people to work in it and earn money from it, sort of a paid job rather than just volunteering? And is there a career path that they can envisage in that sector?
It's not easy, but it's doable in the sense that it requires a lot of planning and passion. I think if you want to work in the third sector with NGOs, you need to really love what you're doing. Not that it's not applicable for other work experiences as well, but especially in this, because most of the time we're working with people. So you need to be very passionate in what you do. You need to plan well, and you need to tap funds. I think that is, I know it's like a broken record, but funds are very important. So you need to secure ways how you can fund wages for yourself and people working with you. What I think really helps is finding like-minded people. Prisms will never be what it is today without the people that make it. So it's impossible. It's almost, you really have to find the right people with that think like you, that want the same things as you do, that don't compromise on quality, because that's very important. But I don't think it's something impossible. You just need to work a little bit hard. With regards to the career path, it's different. There isn't one career path. Of course, in our work, because we work with young people, being a youth worker is a huge plus. And in fact, my colleagues are youth workers. I am following therapy. So these areas assist you more in the work that you do. But you will still need project managers, for example. So if you're going, I don't know, maybe into European studies or even entrepreneurship, they all contribute to having the right skills for the job.
And in terms of MCVS, Martina, what kind of support do you offer to anyone who's joining the sector as an NGO, in terms of either matching them with other NGOs if they're approaching you to see where they can work, or they usually come to you to open a new NGO? Sort of what support do you offer to people who want to work in that sector?
So as MCVS, we offer support basically from the very start, so from opening a new NGO, and eventually obviously, when it comes to the running of organizations. So when they want to open a new NGO, we assist them throughout the whole process. We guide them on what they need to do, what it involves, basically step by step how they can open a new NGO. Eventually, once the NGO is kind of running, we obviously offer support through funding. So we have different funds there. This is the VOPS, which I already mentioned, which are more project-based. We also have training initiatives. There's the TIS as well. And there are also the Youth Volunteer Scheme, which we offer support for youths who want to do either local volunteering or also abroad, overseas. So there's quite a lot of funding involved. But other than that, we also give them opportunities to do volunteering in certain events. So there's the Voluntary Malta initiative, which if anyone wants to do, maybe not constant volunteering, but something that they can do on a one-off occasion, they can apply with Voluntary Malta. And if there's an opportunity for them to do a volunteering, let's say during a marathon, for example, they can go, and if they want to...
So rather than joining a specific NGO and working with that NGO, they can join this pool of volunteers that NGOs can then tap into putting their requests.
Exactly, yes. It's a bit more flexible in a sense, this opportunity. Of course, there are also opportunities to do volunteering within your organization. As I said, the Youth Volunteer Scheme, it gives them the opportunity to do work within the organization that they volunteer with as well. Okay, so there are quite a few opportunities, I would say.
Voluntary Malta is open for any ages?
It's open for everyone, yes. Also, if anyone wants to do a volunteering with an organization and they don't know where to start, they can also apply with us, and we can maybe link them to a volunteer organization of their choice. Something that I want to also add, because we were saying project managers, if, for example, they apply for the SIS and the VOPS and they have someone that they want to include as a project manager, they can also receive funds through the same project, because obviously there are staff costs. So we also want to encourage them from the funding that they receive through projects as well.
All right. And in terms of the volunteer centers, do you run centers as well yourselves, and what do they do?
Mm-hmm. So we all, of course, we have 3 volunteer centers, actually 4, because there's one in Gozo as well. Yes, so the volunteer centers are run by us as well. We also have 2 people now working with MCVS who are more on outreach. So they run the volunteer centers. They're also available in the volunteer centers throughout the week on a few days, so that if a volunteer organization needs to use the premises or they need assistance, they are there available to help as well. And these 2 people, they are also now organizing outreach and networking events. So they're trying to organize events where different volunteer organizations can meet up. They can discuss ideas. So yes, we're offering even such opportunities as well.
Yes, as mentioned before, working in the sector gives you that flexibility, and also the adaptability that you need, because sometimes you're working on projects on your own, sometimes you need to coordinate with others, and that's the dynamic nature of it is what I guess makes it also a bit interesting and challenging at the same time. Another thing that typically happens in this sector, Marie Claire, is when organizations have their employees and they're working in the sector, they tend to include volunteers to work with them, or the target audience, let's say if it's a youth organization, you involve youth within the project. How do you find that? Because I know Prism, you do that regularly. How do you find that challenging, but why do you do it? What's the concept behind it?
We work a lot with young people on the sidelines. What do I mean by that? There are some people that fall within the cracks of the system, either because they have difficulties, either because they have disabilities, or because they're very shy and they're not easily picked up in activities. It's very challenging because it's difficult to get to these young people, but we work a lot with collaborations and with partnerships. I don't think we have any one project where we are doing the work on our own, and that I think is key. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We're not experts in everything, but we have our own expertise. So it's good to go outside, speak with others, see how we can collaborate and complement each other. By targeting young people, we go to schools. We started as well our NGO through detached youth work, so we went into the streets of Cotonera. We met young people. Some kept volunteering with us, others we directed them to other services. So I think partnership is key, and we use a lot of social media as well. We realized that apart from social media, word of mouth is still the most effective of advertising. So whenever we have a group, for example, we have groups for autistic young people, groups for young people with intellectual disabilities. If one person has a good experience, they will tell others, and then they will tell others. So it keeps on growing. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the best way how to reach people as well. Trying to go to the target audience and carrying out a good needs analysis to understand exactly what's needed and how to reach your target.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to the projects you see at MSV, is there a trend of how more youth are getting involved? Is it typically youth organizations doing something for youth, or are the youth active and involving themselves actively in organizing and in participating in events rather than attending?
Mm-hmm. I think it's first of all, it very much depends on the organization. But I think there's a mixture because from my experience, I've had youth organizations who they themselves are run by youths. So obviously the youths are the protagonists within the project. But also there are organizations. So for example, let's say band clubs. We have band clubs who do projects and they are run by the youths who are members of the band clubs. So it very much depends on obviously what type of organization it is. But I think that different organizations are coming to realize that yes, youths are very much important. I like to say that youths are not just today, they are also tomorrow. And obviously they're going to be the protagonists in the future. So it's good to give them certain opportunities. So yes, organizations I think are coming to realize that let's give the youths an opportunity to do the project. Give them a sense of ownership, let them organize something. And the results from what I've seen up to now are always very positive and fruitful within the society as well.
And you mentioned the CESE initiative, the small initiative support schemes. Can you just briefly guide us as to how this works for anyone out there who wants to start something on their own? Their own initiative.
So the CESE, it's basically a fund that is specifically mostly aimed at organizations who are a bit newer and they want to start putting kind of their foot out into funding and they don't know where to start. So through the CESE, since it's a very small fund, because at the moment the maximum capping is of €5,000, so it's not that big of a fund that you have a lot of responsibility, they can do a small initiative. And through this fund, they kind of have, I don't know, a multitude of ideas that they can go with and basically start experimenting with how they want to grow their organization. So if I can look back at a few projects that we've had people who have done podcasts like you guys, we've had people who wrote books, people who did an online system to attract more volunteers and attract funds towards their organization. So yes, there are quite a lot of things that they can do with this. Although it's a small fund, I think it's a good stepping stone as to leading different organizations into kind of getting a more big experience within funding, because obviously from the CESE then you can go to the VOPS, which is a bit of a bigger project. But I do recommend that people start from a bit of a smaller funding experience, a smaller project, and then eventually, obviously, I encourage them to grow and do as many experiences as possible.
And on this note, if you had to give one last piece of advice for someone who's getting involved in the sector, who's working or looking to work in the sector, some last words of advice or encouragement as to why you would suggest this step, and what advice would you give them?
Go for it, definitely, in the sense that, as we discussed throughout, you start to realize that projects are not done for you, but you are doing the project yourself. Even when we're speaking about young people, so it's not for them, but with them, you know, and that's, for me, it is the best way how to actually do something that you love. So, as I said before as well, passion is very important, so really believe into what you're doing. There are a lot of volunteering opportunities, so if you don't really know what you want, try it out. Be it with people, with animals, environment, whatever. Just take the opportunity to go out there and see what skills you want to develop as well, because there are so many different areas that you can tap into. And then to really work hard and continue building your skills. I think this is something very important that we do in our NGO as well. We have people that have degree, have a master's, but they're still doing diplomas in specific areas because they believe that by upgrading their skills, they're helping more people that we are targeting. Yeah. So that's very important.
Martina, last word?
So from my end, yes, I would encourage people to just go for it. If they want to do an experience in volunteering, yes, especially young people, it's a very fruitful experience. You get to learn a lot more than you think from doing volunteer work. So yes, go for a volunteer experience, learn, get out there, and be present. also then eventually if you get the opportunity to work professionally with an organization, sure, why not? Obviously it's a bit different maybe than your traditional job, but it's an interesting challenge, and I think that giving the opportunity to have even paid up members within an organization, it helps with the running of the organization. So yes, I do encourage young people to take this challenge and go for it as well.
Thank you for that. I think the sector is a very important sector in society, in the community, with all its benefits for the individuals working in it as well as the recipient of the activities. As I said, we are as well an NGO, and I worked in the corporate world, small companies, large companies, even foreign and abroad. But still, I think it is very rewarding to be working in a sector where you see impact on a daily basis. So just if I were to wrap up a bit the discussion we had, is that the satisfaction and the reward you get in seeing that impact, and that to consider actually working in the sector, even starting slowly with Volunteer Malta, that you can join different activities here and there. I think it's always good to start from somewhere. So I'll thank you for that discussion, Marie Claire, Martina. I'll thank the partners of this podcast, which include the MCVS, the VOPS scheme, and the Ministry for Inclusion and the Voluntary Sector. I'll thank you for listening to our first season of the JA Malta Podcast. This is the last episode within this season, but keep following our social media, our online communications, and our future podcasts, because we will for sure have more episodes dealing with financial literacy, entrepreneurship, and work readiness. So until the next time, see you.